Welcome back to part 2 of our conversation with Carl Gould, where he tells us how many minutes a day you should focus on lead generation, in addition to the 9 steps to every transaction. Keep it right here. Part 2 is coming up next.
Welcome to this edition of Peak Performers Podcast with your host, Thor Conklin. Thor will be sharing the necessary tools, strategies, and psychology you'll need to become a peak performer in any area of your life or business.
Thor Conklin here. We give you the tricks, the tips, the tools, the strategy, the technology, and the psychology peak performers use in order to get more done and execute at the highest level. If you know what to do but struggle with getting it all done, or simply want to raise your game to the next level, this podcast is for you. Sit back and enjoy. Carl, tell us a little bit about your newest book, Biz Dev Done Right. What are some of the secrets in that book?
Well, we wanted to demystify selling. Everybody has their own take on it, and you got to be persuasive, and you got to be this. I mean, it muddies the water a little bit. And we have watched so many. I've watched so many people fall short one step in front of the goal line because they were doing so many things right, but because it didn't go the way they thought, or it was happening faster than they thought, they would sabotage it, thinking that it was way off. And so I wanted to show that sales is a process like every other process, and sales is actually predictable. Everyone will say, oh my God, every sales call is different. Well, yeah, so walking down the street is a little different too, depending on the sun and the wind and the shoes you're wearing, but it's also very predictable, you know? And so we broke it down and said, okay, there's basically 9 steps to every transaction. I don't care how you sell, where you sell, who you sell. And, you know, we've done business in 35 countries, so I've seen everything sold everywhere, right? And at the end of the day, there's 9 basic steps. And so we broke it down into the 9 steps and said, listen, master each of these steps. And better yet, if you can just improve your performance with each of these steps by 10%, the cumulative effect will be that you will double your revenue based on your sales. And so the secret is understanding how to put script and put things in process, what the expectations are for performance, and then really here's where the between your ears and above the neck problem comes in, is maintaining the discipline to allow the process to work its way through. You know, sales is just like having a garden hose and putting a watermelon in it. You know, you put it in it and you see this big bulge, right? And let's say that your sales cycle, from the time you meet somebody to the time you sell, to the time they buy something, is say 90 days, right? Because you meet them and send them a proposal, and there's some time there in the cycle. Well, so the beginning of the hose is day 1, the end of the hose is day 90. And so if you want a sale every day, then in the beginning of the hose, you have to feed a watermelon in every day. And then it works its way through the process, and then very predictably, 90 days later, boop, pops out the next it pops out a sale. Day 91, another sale. Day 92, another sale. But if you decide to go away for a week and you don't do lead generation and you don't do selling, and so you don't put anything in that garden hose for a week, well, guess what? Days 92, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9, nothing's going to pop out. And on those days, you're going to say, what's up, man? Why are we not selling? Where are all the customers? And you'll be able to thank yourself, your former self 90 days ago, because you decided not to lead gen on that day. So therefore, there was a hole in the sales process, and that 90 days, you know, that day that you took off 90 days later turns into nobody buying.
All right, I got a 2-part question. First one is, do you recommend lead gen to be done 5 days a week, an hour at a time, 2 hours at a time, if you have other duties, or jam it all into one particular day?
Well, it's in practical purposes, it'll probably end up being somewhere in between, but we do recommend 90 minutes a day of lead gen.
Got it.
So
each day, day in, day
out.
out.
Right. So what you might do might be different. So let's say Tuesday's your networking meeting. And then, Monday you make some phone calls, right? And then Tuesday you go to the networking meeting, and then Wednesday you follow up, and then on Thursday you do your blog post, and then on Friday, you're doing some other activity. Maybe that's when you exhibit at the trade show, or you do a podcast or whatever. Now, there's some things you will queue up. Like we do social media posting, and we queue up 90 days at a time. So there'll be some things that you can do, or we have some clients that in their industry that most of the association and industry events happen between January and March. So the first quarter is hugely heavy on marketing and advertising and trade shows and lead gen, and then they spend the rest of the year following up, making connections and solidifying those sales. So it'll be it won't be perfectly 90 days, but you should spread it out so it's not overwhelming, and you can find a balance in your operations.
Got it. So it's every day 90 minutes, but each of those 90 minutes might look different depending on the day.
Yeah, no doubt.
Perfect. All right, so that's part one of my question. Part two has nothing to do with that. Part two is the 9 steps. You started to go into some, but I wanted to really get these down so I could write these. Step 1, step 2. Step 1, what is it?
So step 1 is we call it MVP planning. So MVP is mission, vision, values, purpose. And that is getting all these great ideas out of your head and onto paper so you can distinguish yourself.
And know where you're going.
So how do I distinguish myself? How am I different? What are my, how do I stand out, and how do I differentiate myself in the marketplace?
I love it. Step 2.
Step 2 is marketing. So you've got all these great ideas. You now start your marketing efforts. Yeah, so we suggest that at any given time you have 5 simultaneous lead generation activities so you can be finding your prospect and you can get found by your prospect. So 5 total, doesn't have to be 5 for each, but you should have 5 total lead generation strategies running simultaneous. So if Google ever decides to change that algorithm, it's not going to totally, stump your marketing efforts.
Got it. Okay, 3.
3 is lead gen. Right now, we did we did our strategic planning and our marketing. Now, step 3 in the process is you have actually generated leads. Okay, so a lead. This step in the process is a lead is anything, any person that inquires, anybody that inquires about your product or service. You haven't talked to them yet, but because we're micro segmenting right now, okay? But a lead just means somebody has expressed interest.
Got it.
Okay. Number 4 is your initial conversation. This is, so somebody goes to your website, you haven't talked to them yet, but then your quick chat comes up and says, hey, can I help you? And they actually say, yeah, and they start typing, right? So the initial conversation, the auto load video on your homepage of your website, the phone when it rings, and you pick up at the office or on your cell phone. Somebody comes into your retail establishment, you bump into somebody when you're networking, they leave a voicemail. What is the initial conversation, their first impression of your business? That's number 4.
I want to stop there for a second because, impressions are made so quickly. What are the mistakes that you see in these initial conversations?
Yeah, so oftentimes the business owner or the representative way too quickly tries to sell, right? Here's a good example. Somebody contacts me on LinkedIn. Hey, Carl, you want to connect? I think we have some things in common. I say, oh yeah. I say, yeah, actually that you would be good if we're in the same network. Next message I get is, so here's what I do for a living, and if you want to click this link and buy from me, I'm like, what? You're trying to get married on the first date here, dude?
Yeah.
Slow down. So that initial conversation just totally turned me off because you don't really want me in my network. That's not what you said. You said you wanted me in your network, but what you said was you want to just sell me stuff.
You want me
and
in
you
your
wanted,
net.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So not my network, but in my net. And so you wanted me to click a button and you wanted to sell me as opposed to getting to know me and finding out how you can help me. So they broke their digital promise, right, to me. And so the initial conversation in that person's pipeline, I'm now no longer a prospect.
Yeah. Yep.
Number 5, qualification. So this is the part that a lot of salespeople are either a little fearful of or don't get very right. And qualification is, we've got to figure out, does this person have the ability, and do they fit in our ideal client avatar in order to buy from us? Do they qualify to be our customer? If you were to read, if you were to do some research on, luxury magazines like the Robb Report, Porsche has a lifestyle magazine, what you'd find is that a very low percentage of the people who read those magazines actually would qualify to buy anything in that magazine. So because they are, they hope someday to live that life, but they don't live that life right now. And so you would, in qualification, everyone does it a little bit differently, but you need to make sure, does that prospect have the ability? Do they fit the profile, and are they the type of client you are looking for? Do they qualify?
Love it. Matter of fact, it was interesting. Last night, I was at a meeting, and a speaker came in from Sandler, I guess Sandler Sales Organization. And they said, old school used to be kind of a used car salesman, right? It was like easy qualification, hey, everybody come on in, and then that hard sell, right? Of course, nobody likes that. And talking about how things have shifted to, if you want an easy sales process, have a difficult or a hard qualification process. So when someone says, hey, can you help me? I've got no idea. You've got to find out is there a need? Do they fit your ideal model of what you're looking for? And is it something that you can help them with? So often, you see people we see people all the time. They have a need, they have a problem, but it's not a problem that we can fix. So why would we even engage?
Right. So I perfect example. I was traveling. I was out of the country, and I walked into a BMW dealership. I was at a mall. They had a BMW dealership. I had a little bit of time to kill, and I was checking out the cars. And it was in a British Commonwealth, so they drive on the other side of the road. The wheels on the steering wheel's on the wrong side. They've got it all backwards. And so I'm walking in, admiring the car, and the guy is trying to sell me a car. And bad enough he didn't pick up on the New Jersey accent, that it was clearly from not around there. But he's like, oh, so you in the market? And I said, yeah, actually I am. And he's like, oh, so you're looking to buy now? Like, what is your budget? And I'm like, dude, did you not catch that I'm probably not from around here? And he was like, oh, yeah, I thought your accent was a little funny. I said, well, I said, look, let me help you here. You've got a showroom full of people. I'm just killing some time. I'm just walking around admiring the cars, but it looks like you might have some actual buying clients over there if you want to go with them. Go spend some time with them. And he said, oh, and he said thank you, and he walked over. But like I could have easily just played the role, and I could have killed an hour of this guy's time, and he could have lost business because he never qualified. Could I buy the car? Sure. Is it likely I'm going to buy a BMW in another country, ship it home when I can just buy one at home? Probably not. Right. So I wouldn't have fit the ideal client avatar because I'm not from his service area, And so, it's a big problem. As a matter of fact, anybody out there, anyone who's a sales manager, look at the salesperson that you have that has the biggest pipeline. And part of the reason they have one of the biggest pipelines is they're good at door opening, but they might not be very good at qualifying.
Yeah.
So number 6 is transaction. Transaction this is probably one of the areas of immediate impact you can have on your sales team, and one of the ways you can quickly increase your revenue, because transaction is the salesperson's ability to help the customer, the prospect, assemble their product and service mix. So in other words, this is where you help them pick their package, pick their package, design which ticket they want. Where do they want to sit in the concert arena? Imagine if you were at a restaurant. you would help me buy my appetizer and my drink when I sit down, and then my salad or the salad course or my soup, then my entree and then my dessert. How many times have you been at dinner and then the waiter or the server comes around and says, "Would you like dessert?" And everyone's like, "Oh no, we shouldn't. Oh, Thor, no, not tonight. I'm stuffed." And then somebody says, "Well, I'll split the chocolate cake if you want to go." Well, oh, okay. I'd be a slob if I ate the whole chocolate cake, but sure, bring out that chocolate cake and bring 2 forks, and then that person is masterful at saying, "Well, with the tiramisu, since you're sampling, you may want to just try the tiramisu also. There's 5 of you. And before you know it, you've got a piece of cherry pie, tiramisu, chocolate, and some ice cream. And you're all picking at it, right?
Right.
And so you've got a server who's masterful at the transaction because they'll help you build your purchase. And so this is an area that with a little bit of practice, a little bit of being a little bit clever here, if you will, a sales team can be very effective because they can increase their average cost per sale or their average ticket. And that takes a lot of burden off the team to generate additional leads because they're getting more per transaction. They're getting more share of sale. So that number 6 is a really important one.
And I'll interject something here. There's a restaurant down here that when it's dessert time, they actually bring around this. It's kind of like a tray of the desserts, and they just put it on the table. It has all the desserts. They put it on the table, and they're like, "Which one would you like? Oh, you want us to take it off the table now?" Yeah. So now it's a question of not asking for it. Now you have to reject it.
Right. That's the whole thought process. Well, when I call it chocolate chip cookie customer service. You can go into somebody's house and like, "Well, we have cookies. Would you like one?" "Oh, no, I'm fine." But if they put the chocolate chip cookies on a tray and walked up and said, "Hey, I just baked some chocolate chip cookies," and they put it right in front of you, you would absolutely take one.
Right.
Right. Yeah. So
that's why they put you in the car at the car dealership. "Oh, just sit in it. I know you don't want this one, but just sit in it." Or here's the puppy. Hold the puppy.
Yeah.
Now you got to give the puppy back. Or worse yet, they give it to the kid, right? Here, let's give the kid the puppy. If you're not getting the results you want and need, I guarantee no one's holding you accountable. Now, let's face it. Who really wants to be held accountable? Not me, right? Nobody. Why would you want to be held accountable? It's not part of our nature. However, if you want to get exceptional results, you must be held accountable. For $95 a month, our team will hold you accountable to those goals that you want to accomplish in any given month. If you don't like it, ask for your money back. But truly, if you're not getting the results, it's because no one's holding you accountable. The only question is, are you willing to step up?
Keep an eye out for part 3 of our interview with Carl, where he gives us the final 3 steps to every transaction, as well as tells us why you can't avoid your way to success. See you next time on Peak Performers Podcast.